Okay, calling the meeting to order on this first day of summer. Some opening remarks to get us going. This meeting of the Reading Municipal Light Department, RMLD, Board of Commissioners, is being videotaped at the RMLD's office at 230 Ash Street, Reading, Mass. For distribution to the community television stations in Reading, North Reading, Wilmington, and Lynnfield. The RMLD Board of Commissioners recognizes that the importance of hearing public comment at the discretion of the chair on items on the official agenda, as well as on items not on the official agenda. We ask that all questions or comments from the public be directed to the chair, and that all parties, including members of the RMLD board, act in a professional and courteous manner when addressing the board or responding to comments. Once recognized by the chair, all persons addressing the board shall state their name and address prior to speaking. It's the role of the chair to maintain order in all public comment or ensuing discussion. All right. So introductions, we have representing the Citizen Advisory Board, the esteemed Neil Cohen. Welcome, Neil.
Good to be here.
And our secretary for tonight is Tom O'Rourke. Would you
I'd be honored
do?
to, Mr. Chair.
Excellent. Excellent. We also see one of our select board members, Vanessa Alvarado, here as well. Welcome her. All right. Public comment. Well, why don't we go to the Citizens Advisory Board first? I mentioned Neil. Neil, do you have any comments?
I have no comments to make.
No comments, okay. And any liaisons to the RMLD board? I don't see here. Any public comments? What's that?
Vanessa's
Oh, Vanessa. She's a liaison to the
Yeah.
board. Vanessa, do you have anything you want to share? All right. And I don't see any other public comments here, so we could go on to the approval.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Oh,
do
yes.
you want to acknowledge Dave's remote?
Oh, yes. I also want to acknowledge that Dave Talbot is on conference call. We got a full participation of the RMLD board.
Hi, everybody. Sorry I couldn't be there at short notice. Family emergency, but
No,
here
I hope everything's okay.
Sure. Okay.
Hey, Dave.
Hi, Dave.
Dave?
Thank you, Dave. Okay, approval of the minutes. We want to make a motion to,
I'll
You take
move
that
that,
one?
I'm gonna move both of them unless somebody has objection. I'll move that we approve the meeting minutes of April 5th, 2018, and April 17th, 2018, on the recommendation of the general manager and as presented.
okay, second?
Second.
All right, second. Discussion? And now I think we have to do a roll call vote because
Right, 'cause
Dave.
of Dave on the phone.
Okay, so
Tom O'Rourke, aye?
Mr. Pacino, aye?
Mr. Hennessy, aye?
Mr. Stempak, aye.
Talbot, aye.
All right.
All right.
All right, and now we move to the report of the chairman. What do I have to report?
No, you skipped me.
Report-
You
what'd I do?
skipped me.
Okay, what do you got?
You skipped me.
What do you have?
Number 6.
Number six.
Number
report-
6.
Phil Pacino report on the May 16th and June 20th meetings.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
You already did that, Phil.
How soon we forget.
Oh, you want to report on it as well as approve the minutes, you also want to report on it?
We would.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
Please
Okay.
report.
So I attended both the May 16th meeting of the Citizen Advisory Board, at which, it was really very general stuff. They talked about the financial report. There was an update on the reliability study and the organizational study. And they also talked about who was attending the NEPA conference. On June the 13th, I attended the Town of Reading Audit Committee meeting, at which point we had a presentation from the Town of Reading auditors, the Melanson Heath, and basically the Town of Reading Audit Committee did recommend the audit be accepted as presented. And I might add, there was no management letter or anything that the auditors brought up that was a problem on the Town of Reading side, so. On
Great.
that.
That's good
And
news.
then on the June 20th, I attended the Citizens Advisory Board. I was Mr. Stenpeck's stand-in.
Right, I was. I'm sorry about that. I had a business conflict.
It's okay, that's okay, you're forgiven.
Let's leave that to the chair to decide.
I'll make it up. I'll make it up to you.
Basically, they, and this was last night, they basically approved the minutes. They talked about the OSHA requirements. The electric vehicle pilot program was discussed, which is, we're getting a presentation night also. And they also demonstrated, Joyce did a great job of designing the redesign of the RMLD's website. So,
Great, nice job, Joyce.
yes.
Looks great.
All right.
Okay.
And Phil, you've been very busy. Impressive.
Yes.
Great
Thank you.
contributions.
Thank you.
All right, then it says report of the chairman, and I don't have a report. So I'm gonna go to number 8, I think, and that's the general manager's report. Colleen?
Yes, thank you, and good evening to everyone. As you all know, we have taken the 31 board policies, and we have been scrubbing them and bringing them up to date to match all of the regulations and laws. And to date, we have 12 complete. We have 5 on the docket for board to review, of which we are going to do 4 tonight, and one of them is actually revision of one that we've already completed, which was procurement, which has some values in there that are changing. And then we have the balance scheduled to be reviewed. And we really do spend some time scrubbing and making sure that they are up to date. We add revisions to them, so now every 3 years they're looked at, so they'll never, ever fall behind again for as many years as they were left without review. So I think we're in good shape. So in starting with that, I think we're gonna just go quickly, and I'll tell you what the changes are for policies 7, 9, 17, and 27, and 31. So for policies,
Two questions?
Yeah,
Yes.
sure.
So are we gonna take a policy at a time and talk about it as opposed to?
whatever you'd like to do. We don't have the policy review committee anymore. You wanted to dissolve that, so.
Yeah.
Right.
No, but I mean, you're not gonna go through all the changes in
Nope.
all of them. We'll do them one at a
No,
time.
I was just gonna give you a general change.
Oh,
Just a general. So, for example, in policy number 7, paid sick leave, in general, it is updating and providing more responsibility to the GM and the department managers and the HR to ensure that there is no sick time abuse, and to monitor sick time and time off, that it's in accordance with the laws, with the RMLD collective bargaining agreements, which is where it indicates what each unit is entitled to for their sick time. So that's basically all it's doing, is increasing the responsibility that comes under the managers.
okay, so is this appropriate time to ask a question or make a comment for that policy?
Sure.
Yeah.
Dave?
Yeah.
Okay, so, I just had a question on,
Dave Hennessy.
Dave Talbot, did you have a comment on policy 7 before I
No,
comment?
actually, I'm sorry, I was, no, that was a straight comment, not directed
Okay,
to Colin.
all right, so, no. So on section 3, paid sick leave and buyback
Right.
benefits, so if I read it correctly, it sounds like the union employees and non-union management are eligible, but under C, on the last page, my question is, if I'm reading it right, non-union employees don't get, aren't eligible for the benefit, am I reading that right? 'Cause
Other non-union employees, probably meaning people that come in.
Yeah, I'm really talking about, but if you're a non-union employee, because point A is union employees, right? So that's clear. B is non-union management,
Right,
and then C is temporary employees and other non-union, which I'm taking to mean non-management. So a non-management,
yeah, non-union,
Non-union.
non-management, correct.
they don't have sick, they don't.
So, and the sick buyback, obviously at one point in time, it was unlimited. And we've worked hard to reduce that down with new hires being at 30 days. And so some people are at 60 days. And we've actually gotten it less than
Yeah.
what the town threshold is, but,
Colleen, I guess it just, maybe this a historical reason, but, so if I'm a non-union, non-management employee working for RMLD, I don't have that benefit, sick
No.
leave?
sick buyback, right?
Well, it says paid sick leave and buyback benefits.
Right.
So the non-union, non-management employees don't get paid sick leave.
Correct.
Okay. I guess I'm
We don't
just-
have very many non-union, non-management employees, do we?
Yeah.
We had hired, excuse me, someone out of college to help on the GIS system.
Right.
At the time, so we knew that, he was a permanent hire, but it was really gonna be temporary. So that's someone, for example, that we would not give this
Okay,
benefit.
let me, let me frame it a little differently. So effectively, if you're, anyone not in the union is a management employee, there isn't anybody else other than temps.
Correct.
All right.
It's hired by the RMLD, not by a temp agent.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, there's really no non-union.
Right.
Non-union, non-management employees to cover.
It's a
right?
unique situation when it happened. Okay,
Right, okay,
all right,
good, that was all my.
okay. Good
Like a
question. Good.
co-op student. would be-
Yeah, I just
Another
thought,
example.
some companies have
Right.
a mix of union and non-union, they're not management, I guess is my point.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
not true here, I guess. Good.
Okay.
Okay, so that's the only changes to that.
So do we need to approve these?
Do we do one at
as
a
we're going
time,
through
or
them?
do we do them in,
I
as a?
did the motion with all of them at once.
All right.
I mean, if we don't want to approve some of them, we can take them out.
Okay, why don't we go
Okay.
through them all, and then
Yeah.
if we feel uncomfortable about any one of them, we'll just take that and delay it to next time.
Sounds
Okay.
good.
Okay.
Okay, in policy number 9, in section 2, under authority, they changed chapter 164, section 56D, of the threshold from 25,000 to 50,000 per the new law. So that's the only change in that. And that will get updated as those thresholds change.
Great.
Okay,
That's the only change to that. And you had previously approved this, so this is just a change to the law.
okay.
The previous commissioner vote date on that was 12/15/2016.
All right.
Anyone have, I don't have any questions.
No, I mean, it's just a change to the law, so that one's pretty
Yeah.
self-explanatory.
Okay, policy 17, tuition reimbursement. It outlines the approved areas of study and also clarifies eligible expenses. We needed clarification on that. And we're also allowing, they have this new thing with students that go to school. It used to be that you pay, it's like you have to pay up front, but now the school is willing to defer it.
Really?
Yeah, because they want to encourage everyone to go to school, but a lot of times the students don't have the money to go up front. And so if the company agrees to it, nothing comes out of the company's funds, and the student still has to get an A or better, or a B or better, in order to get their reimbursement if it's approved course of study. But the school and if the company is willing, will wait till the end, and it works really well, and it gives more people
That's
an
great.
opportunity. So that's clarified in here, and those are the only changes.
Okay,
I had a question,
Yep.
if I could. I didn't see in here, and perhaps it's embedded in it, but when I went through it, I mean, I know that like Phil and Wendy probably go for like CPI credits and whatnot, where you have to maintain a certain level of education. I used to do it in professional services when I worked for Deloitte. And you do those on a yearly basis in courses.
Every 2 years.
Every 2 years,
for me.
right.
Yeah, HR is the same.
And HR is the same way. So I didn't see that sort of specifically called out as reimbursable, but yet it's an educational and,
Typically, and maybe Wendy can help me on this one, but for all the career development plans that I've produced for each job description, if they have particular courses they have to take in order to keep their credentials up, it's considered under the CDPs as training. So if they
okay, very good.
receive the, their continuing education credits, it works that way, but it's under their training obligations for
Okay,
continuing
great.
proficiencies.
yeah, that handles that.
Yeah, and some of what John said, I assume if someone wanted to take either a webinar, paid for, that you have to pay for a webinar, or a lot of them are, workshops that organizations hold, would just probably expense that? Is that how it's managed?
Yes, just
Yeah.
under the, training.
So that might not necessarily come under tuition reimbursement per
Right,
se.
exactly.
Right, but it has to be in their career development. You no longer can just take classes willy-nilly. It has to be in your agenda of proficiency, so for you to meet your progression. So if they're gonna take a webinar, it has to meet a criteria that's on their career development. So,
So I had a couple of questions as well. So under number 4, under Roman numeral 3, so, just to make sure I understand it, so if you had an employee, let's say he's an engineer and he's not going for a particular degree, but he wants to take, some new state-of-the-art, course, is that not eligible? Because I could see, envision, I know in my own company, sometimes it doesn't always start out as I want to get a degree. It starts out, I want to get educated and improve myself, and then, oops, I took 4 of these. If I do 7 more, I can get a certificate or a degree. So I'm just wondering if that's limiting in terms of, especially someone newer to the organization that might be out of school for a bit, and they don't necessarily have a targeted degree in mind. You know what I'm saying, Colleen? So is there room in the approval process to do that? Because it seems to me it could be career related. It just isn't necessarily tied to, I'm not sure I want to, stand up and sign up for the 2-year certificate, but clearly getting that education is a value.
Right.
And it's developmental.
Right. In that respect, if someone wasn't going for a degree and there wasn't like a simple online class or a webinar or something like that, and the only way they were going to gain this type of experience, and it's in their career development, then we may make an isolated exception to one course at a college, okay? Because actually we had an employee take project management, and it was a course, a short course that was offered at Boston College, UMass Lowell.
Yeah.
So that does happen. It's isolated. It's not part of a degreed program. We do recognize that once you get into a degreed program, you still have to take humanities and things like that.
Yeah, I saw that. That
are
part's
part
good,
of
yeah.
that. But no, you wouldn't be able to just go take any course that you liked that didn't have anything to do with you.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about it clearly, it's an engineering course, it just isn't tied to a particular certification or degree.
Not unless it's part of a degree and they took it as an elective. No, we wouldn't pay for that.
Is there any reason we wouldn't? I mean, it seems like it would fit the general
Well, if they
criteria.
could prove that that's, I've taken a lot of engineering courses that I'm not using today. I'm not sure that there would be classes that if you weren't taking a degree that we would think that that money would be spent better otherwise. That's why their career development programs are specifically tailored for exactly what it is that they need.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot just to get all that training done, never
How
mind.
flexible are the career development plans? Because part of what I'm sort of poking at is, sometimes people start out in a particular area and they kind of migrate to a different area through exposure, understanding. So, I mean, there's extremes. You don't want to pay for some courses,
Right.
Basketball or something, but, there is something to be said. Education, there's lots of education that doesn't tie directly to what
Right.
your career development plan may be today, what that might tomorrow. But so someone had a career development plan, I guess the question is, could they come talk to their
Right.
supervisor and maybe have
Yes.
that?
We
is that
have
flexible?
people that are looking at being successors for someone else in the company.
Yep.
And if their job description already provides somewhat of a backup to that function, something like that would be approved. So I guess it would be a case-by-case basis, but, we have a budget for training and it's pretty tight. And now with OSHA coming on board, making sure skill sets and proficiencies are really gonna be important, so in most cases, we try to stick to the script, you know what I mean?
And then my last question, I don't think I saw it, I just wondered, it doesn't appear that there's a requirement or opportunity for supervisory approval for tuition reimbursement. Is that intentional, or do we think that's necessary?
That's on the form. Do you have a form attached at the back?
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at, maybe I just didn't read it that carefully enough. So I know HR has to sign it, I know you signed it, Colleen, but the reason I'm thinking of that is there may be one of its knowledge, right, because it'd be nice for the employee to know that the supervisor knows that they're doing it, and sometimes the supervisor may not approve it, right, for different reasons, so I just was curious if that was intentional, or maybe that happens organically here, I don't know.
You know what, Tom? I think that's a good catch.
Generally, Colleen doesn't sign.
I mean, it.
Yeah,
Supervisor signs.
But you're right.
Yeah.
I don't assign
know,
anything
yeah.
that hasn't been initialed by the supervisor submitting it, and when this comes in, even though this form doesn't have the supervisor on it, they have to submit where their budget's gonna
Yeah.
cover it. But you're absolutely right, I can certainly change the form
Yeah,
to add the supervisor's signature. Excellent.
That's all I got.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions on this policy? Okay. 27?
Okay, 27,
Just electronic device.
yeah, it's electronic. This was basically updated to add our NERC cybersecurity requirements, adherence, and, yeah, it's a compliance for NERC for cybersecurity. As an electric utility, as you know, NERC is very stringent with all utilities, and we pretty much have full-time people watching NERC security alerts and making sure that all of our firewalls and everything that is isolated electrically that protects our substations in any type of attack, whether it's a cyber attack or physical attack. We have lots and lots of compliance policies that we have to show on a very regular basis, once a month at least, that we are, and they continue to write them. So as new people develop ways to hack into systems, it's nonstop. So we have to update this to make sure that we're adhering to those. And if anybody's interested in our NERC compliance program, I'd be glad to walk you through that. It's a pretty substantial process that we go through. We even have an outside consultant that helps us because it's such a large volume of work. But we've just had audits.
Yeah, we just have passed it all.
We just passed the audit with flying colors, so we're good.
Excellent.
Great.
All
I
right.
have one comment
Yeah.
on that, and that's under the section D for the Board of Commissioners. And if you walk.
D on the first page?
D on the second page.
D.
Second page.
Okay,
D,
yep.
D is in dog. On 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The seventh line down, cautioned against using email to communicate with other board members except for purely procedural or housekeeping matters. I'd like to add into that, or distribution of data or timely articles or information that may prove useful for the entire board. And what I mean by that is when we have an issue that we may be dealing with, whether it's solar or whether it's large customers that are in our environment that are facing issues, there's a lot of data that exists in the outside world, and rather than accumulate that data and then bring it to the meeting and we all think about it and talk about it, it's much more efficient to circulate the data without any comments on it, but just to circulate the data or the articles themselves, because it provides, I think, a much more timely and effective forum for us all to see that and to talk about it obviously here at the meeting. But if we don't do that, it just delays it by about a month or longer. And I think in this world, we shouldn't delay things.
So if, Mr. Chairman, maybe
Yeah.
a suggestion would be where, except for purely educational, procedural, or housekeeping matters.
I
That'd be
like
fine.
that too.
Educational, just add one word.
Just add one
Educational-
word, educational with a comma.
All right.
Wish I'd thought of that.
That's all right. You explained it well.
Not well
You did
enough.
it in paragraphs, he did it with one word.
Well, consultants are usually paid for.
I'm getting paid by the hour.
Yeah. I have a couple of comments if
Oh,
it's
yeah.
appropriate. So,
Yeah.
one I guess is just it's just logic if I'm reading it right. So on page 2 under permitted use, the second sentence, incidental and occasional brief personal use is permitted during non-working hours as long as such use does not interfere with any employee's work or violate this. So if it's personal use, non-working hours, it really wouldn't interfere with work, would it? Unless they were on standby or something.
It was meant for breaks, and,
Oh,
yeah, that's,
Oh, so
the
no,
language was changed from employee breaks and like lunch periods, so that's what that meant, by
Okay.
non-working hours.
oh, as opposed to at nighttime or something
Yeah.
like that.
lunch hour could apply for that? Okay.
Yeah, but even then, I suppose you could say during that time, there's no expectation for work, right? And it's a minor, I guess it just struck me as. On a more substantive vein, so at the end of number 3, the rule of thumb, which I don't totally disagree, but I guess I'd like to suggest an add-on. So the useful rule of thumb, when in doubt, don't. I mean, it seems to me the other option is to ask, right? So, you know, if there's no one to talk to, then I would say don't, but it would seem to me that something may just need clarification, so. I wonder if others feel the same way.
Yeah, ask is a good, I think that's a good add,
Yep.
So cross don't and put ask.
correct.
Or don't and ask, or,
Well,
Ask
just
and
even ask, because then you could get a don't, or you could go, it's okay.
Okay, I like it.
all right.
The only other question I had, and I don't really, I'm not current on it, so some of you know, so there's a global data protection regulations, you know, that's gathering a lot of, I'm sure a lot of you are affected by in the companies. I don't know that it really affects RMLD, but I know in Massachusetts there was a big data protection, and that there's actually work done, and I thought of policies in place, but I haven't been involved directly in that. So I guess my question is there any other, under the, I don't know if the data protection, do we have any separate policy that deals with data protection, or is this really the right piece for that?
Yeah, this is,
Yeah, I guess it's just around, Phil, I don't know, you must have had some exposure to that, right? There's Massachusetts data protection laws that,
Yeah, the only thing I have to protect is I gotta make sure I protect data, sensitive data, like social security numbers that
yeah,
I have.
well, I mean, if we're in that same
Right.
business, right?
Right, yeah.
well, we
Yeah,
have
so-
Massachusetts record keeping that we have to follow.
Yeah.
I
Right.
mean, that's,
Yeah. So it's really, I'm just posing the question, I don't know if there's any other, you know, there's been a lot of.
If I have to send something to somebody, I have to send it encrypted. You know,
If it has that kind of information in
it's
it,
that
like
kind of
social
encrypted.
securities,
I
yeah.
got clients that can't figure out how to encrypt it, but it's on the story.
Yeah.
Right.
I guess I would not hold up approving the policy, but maybe something we wanna do a little more. I'll see if I get a little more information on it as well, but,
It would be for another
Yeah.
policy, it sounds like, not for this one.
maybe, or
Yeah.
it could be for a future. I mean, I don't have anything hard to suggest there, but, there's a lot of, tension now getting, you know, for obvious reasons, you know, with cybersecurity and how information gets, transmitted, not just for us, but for vendors and stuff like that.
Okay.
Okay, that's all I got.
So we'll be able to still vote on this with those conditions of the informational and
Mr. Chairman, what I would
ask.
suggest
Yeah.
is that we vote on this one separately, where we got changes.
Okay,
So
that's
I'll
fine.
make a motion to approve the RMLD policy 27 with the changes on, in section, what is it, 2, II, item D, that we add the word educational, comma, before procedural or housekeeping matters.
Okay,
And on page 3, which is section 3, under permitted use, the last item under section B is that we replace the word don't with ask.
okay. And second?
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 All right. Guess we already had our discussion, but any more discussion? All
Tom
those,
O'Rourke, aye?
Dave Hennessy, aye?
Mr. Pacino, aye?
Mr. Stempak, aye?
Talbot, aye.
All right.
So do we want to go back and do the other two? So
No, we can get them all, the other, we can do
We
all
still
the
have-
others.
Are we
We have a
gonna-
change on one of them, remember, on the
you have a
tuition?
change on the tuition reimbursement
yeah,
to add
that's
the
right.
supervisor's
So we'll do that
signature.
one the same way,
Okay.
just to be consistent.
I just thought we'd change the form. Okay.
Yeah, we can change the form.
Well, this one we can batch then.
Yeah, but the
Okay.
form
Yeah,
is part of
the
the
form.
policy, or is it?
Yeah, it's part of the policy.
All right,
Okay.
we'll do it twice.
All right, I'll move we approve policy 17 with the change in the attachment A, that there be a line added for the supervisor's signature and date.
Okay, second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Tom O'Rourke, aye?
Mr. Hennessy, aye?
Ms. Pacino, aye?
Mr. Stempak, aye?
Talbot, aye.
All right.
Okay, the last one is policy 31 for vehicle use. And we, with our PERMA insurance company, we have a little folders and how you, what you have to, the information you have to write down if you get in an accident, what you're supposed to do, who you hand that into, who you need to notify, and it's all in a little packet in each glove compartment. So basically, we've attached that to the back, and we re-emphasized that in some of the, in all of the collective bargaining agreements, including imposed on myself and all of the senior managers, any accidents that occur that involve any type of drinking or death or anything like that nature. There are cases where you have to call into a supervisor here, notify him of the accident. You will be brought to be tested. So that was put in here as a reminder to follow the collective bargaining agreement, and also policy 26 that affects non-union personnel like senior managers. So the actual accident report to fill out, notifications on what needs to happen if there's a loss of life, or there's a couple list of things that occur. And then we spent a lot of time on the hands-free cell phone use, clarifying that there's no using of any apps on handheld devices while driving RMLD vehicles. And the reason why it was a little bit difficult is because a lot of people misunderstand the word text. A text is a character. And people say, well, I wasn't texting, I was reading. It's like, no, you can't do any of that. So it's absolutely hands-free. Actually, in a couple of the states now, you have to put your phone in the glove compartment. And if you can use that phone while it's in the glove compartment, then you can use it. So everything is completely hands-free. So you can yell to Siri in the glove compartment. If she hears you and she dials for you, you're good to go. So, that's not our state law right now. So we're following Massachusetts state law, but we wanted to clarify that texting is reading, it's physically texting, it's manipulating any apps on your phone, it's touching your phone, it's gotta be hands-free, so that it's quite clear with all of the employees. So that was one of the major things, because we have tablets in the car now, so the whole GIS and all of our work order system and everything is now on those tablets. So if your crewmate can manipulate it while you're driving, but otherwise you need to pull to the side of the road in order to do any of this, answer a phone call, whatever. Okay, so that was kind of the area that, we spent some time doing a little bit of research. Those are the changes to that.
It's great.
All right. Good. Any questions by anybody on this one? Clarifications? All right, I think we can, Phil, you want to do a motion on all three of these? 7? all
So
you
what
can
do we
say.
got? We got 7, is it 7, 9?
31.
7, 9, and 31. Right. Check the right ones. Move that the commission approve the changes to policy number 7, sick leave benefits, number 9, RMLD procurement, and number 31, vehicle use, on the recommendation of the general manager.
All right, have a second?
Second?
All right. Discussion? All those in favor?
Tom O'Rourke, aye?
Mr. Hennessy, aye?
Mr. Pacino, aye?
Mr. Stempak, aye?
Talbot, aye.
All right, motion carries 5-0, and all the motions carried 5-0, so we're set. That was the policy committee.
May I make one more comment before we move on?
Yes?
Just so everyone knows, as a reminder, that, state employees will now be, have to be in compliance with OSHA as of February 2019. I want all of my commissioners to know, and the public to know, that I think we're in very, very good shape. Hamid and I brought in very strong safety policies when we came. We have some logistics that we have to address that I think in this training that's coming up will help to answer. Like, if you hire a contractor, are you responsible for all the tools on his truck? I mean, things like that we have to sift out. But we have a trainer coming in next Thursday. We're having an open meeting for everyone in the company to be able to ask questions. I'm preparing questions, and it's gonna be very transparent. And then at the end of the summer, we're doing a self-audit. It's a 2-day self-audit where he will come back and he will audit everything as if he is OSHA. And then on the 3rd day, he'll write a report.
Kind of a practice, OSHA.
It's like a practice, but it'll give us plenty of time to, to make sure that everything is right where it should be, and that all of the employees are on board, and we're good to go. Because, if someone's to come out in the field within your work zone, you wanna have a good attitude, you wanna, be respectful, understand what they're saying, we wanna have a process of how it's communicated. But I think we'll have everyone ready for any type of inspection that comes in going forward,
That's great.
so.
Yeah.
So calling 2 questions. When
Yeah.
is it effective?
February 2019.
Okay, so we don't need it certainly for this year, but I'm wondering if it would be a good idea, since we haven't had the obligation to comply, if we could add, give some time for you to think about some metrics when we do our normal monthly report out, so, because eventually, I think you have to report OSHA recordable incidents and other,
Right.
items, so I think to have that visibility in our monthly meetings would be good. I don't know if
Okay.
that's necessarily monthly,
Right.
maybe it's quarterly, but,
Right.
just so, get the board used to seeing that information. and understanding it.
Well, we follow the APPA manual, which is OSHA-based, and we have a number of policies that Hamid and I have written on OSHA,
Yeah.
policies and procedures, and that combined with our safety committee makes up our safety
Yeah.
program.
Right,
So we've always been following them.
sure.
And OSHA's always been there, so even though you don't have to be compliant, if there's ever an accident, the Department of Labor would use OSHA standards in order to come in to do the investigation, so that's why it was always a good idea to follow that as a best utility practice.
Yep. Good.
So, but you're absolutely right, there will be metrics and reports that will have to go out, but I'm counting on that there will be none, so.
Good.
All right, thank you.
Great, thanks. Okay, I think we're coming up to you, Jane, is that right? Yes, integrated resources.
Mr. Chair, so, since we just went through it, so I know it worked fine for me. Is this a good process then to go forward in the policies? I think it worked pretty.
What do you guys think? I think.
I think it's a real time saver.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it requires some time to discuss, but it's, I think, more efficient.
But we would spend some time on this anyway
Right.
in the general meeting, going through this a little bit. So now we just kind of put it all together, so,
And,
good.
and we get it beforehand to review, so
Right.
we can ask the questions.
Right,
so,
Tracy got it to us well in advance.
yeah, it's great.
And we get everybody's input instead of just,
Right,
a
just the
couple or
committee, and then
three,
the committee
right.
has to go and get it approved, and then back, yes.
Right.
Much more efficient.
Thanks. I'm here to report on the April 2018 purchase power.
Neil, sorry, you want to hit the lights so that you see that?
I knew I was here for
Yeah,
a reason.
oh, good, thank you, Neil.
Now, Neil, you'll be here to put them on. So it's not a narrow.
Tom, at the end of last meeting, we sat in the dark after the presentation.
This first slide looks at the capacity requirements and the embedded costs for the month of April, and it looks back from 2014 to 2018. So you can see in 2014, the first bar chart, our capacity requirement was 215,566 kW, and our average cost per kW was $10.25. If you fast forward to 2018, you see a significant increase. Although our capacity requirement was 222,431 kW, our average cost to supply that was $13.56. And as we had been talking over the last 3 years, effective in this capacity year was that increase in NEMA capacity zone. So we went from the $3 for the ISO exchange to the $15. And so that resulted in approximately a 16% increase in capacity costs for this year. So it was about a $3 million annual increase, and again, this is just the April snapshot. And so you can see with the green line going up significantly for the average cost of capacity. I'd like to also remind you, based on this slide, that our capacity is based on our summer peak from last year. And so Joyce has already started our Shred the Peak campaign.
we saw that this week, right?
Correct.
Earlier
On
this week.
Monday, we had a very hot day. We have a list of about 2,000 customers that have opted in to participate in our Shred the Peak. So all that participation, along with all of our efforts to reduce our summer demand, go into these costs hopefully coming down in the future. And so I encourage all our customers who are watching to participate in that program.
What was the high point of the day?
The peak actually occurred between 6 and 7 o'clock, and for us, it wasn't an all-time peak. Our overall peak for Monday was about 135 megawatts. That compares to about 153 last year. So we'll have to see if this remains to be the summer peak or if we'll actually have a summer this year.
It probably will not be the summer peak.
Most likely it won't be.
How can people participate, Jane? Can you tell
Sure.
listeners again? how to
Sure.
participate?
We tweet when we are predicting or when we're anticipating that it may be a peak day. We have an email. They can contact us through the website and sign up to opt into our Shred the Peak campaign. When they do that, we'll send them out an email to say today's a potential peak day between the hours of 6 to 8 o'clock, we are anticipating our peak, and then we give them a list of things. Don't run your dishwasher or dryer till after those hours. Grill out as opposed to running your stove or oven. And then you can resume your regular duties after that short period window of time.
Great.
The second slide looks at our purchase power embedded costs for fuel. The purple line indicates our kilowatt hours purchased. And as you can see in April, there's kind of a our declining line if you were to trend those. So this past April, our purchases, which is reflective of somewhat of our sales, have been down significantly. And then in spite of that, our average cost of power is still under 5 cents. So we've been able to take advantage of some low natural gas costs. We've entered into a short-term arrangement where we're laddering and layering on an ongoing basis as costs come down, so that's been attractive. And so we hope to keep our energy costs low or declining to help levelize the overall cost of energy that our consumers have to purchase. And the last cost looks at the transmission costs. Those are the three components that make up the purchase power, our capacity, energy, and transmission cost. And this looks at April, a 5-year period from 2014 to 2018. Just so people are aware, the way our transmission costs are allocated and socialized throughout New England, we get 90% of our transmission costs get charged through us through ISO New England, and that's known as Regional Network Service. And so all of the transmission upgrades throughout New England, those costs get socialized throughout everybody in New England, and that's based on our monthly peak coincident with the transmission provider. So we're interconnected to both National Grid and Eversource, and on a monthly peak, and that it's not necessarily the same peak for Eversource and National Grid. We look at those hourly, so those get reported to the ISO, and based on those peak hours, we get allocated 90% of our costs. So in April, there's a 1 month lag, so we were billed actually for our March transmission. And so the difference in April, or again, it's our March transmission costs, in 2016, when you look from 15 to 16, we had a 9.4 megawatt drop in that month. So that allowed us to decrease our costs. These rates are based on that monthly peak as well as those regional network charges. And those have been going up anywhere from 2 to 12%, and they average around 6% increase annually. And unfortunately, because of the way that the formula is, those transmission utilities get a return on their investments. And so those costs are forecasted to just continue on an upward trend. So right now we're paying about $10 a kW a month, and those are projected to escalate around 6% every year going forward.
And what percent of a ratepayer's bill, what percent of it is transmission cost?
That's a very good question. So of the overall purchase power, just to give you an example for this fiscal year, we're forecasting around $70 million for purchase power, and transmission costs are about $14 million of that.
Okay.
Capacity is around $23 million, and fuel's around $31 million. So it's around 30, 20, 46 in terms of capacity, transmission, fuel.
Okay.
Ballparkish.
All right. So,
And that
okay.
would concludes my report. However, I do have 2 other items under my item.
Okay.
Ben's-
Any questions for Jane about her, what she's already presented? No. Okay. You got other items you want to
Yeah,
talk about?
Ben DeVerge, who works in IRD, is going to talk about our pilot EV program.
All
And
right.
then Joyce is going to talk about community relationship, and she's going to do a demonstration on the new website.
Great.
My name's Ben Verge. I'm a resource specialist here in the Integrated Resources Division. I mostly focus on our residential rebate programs. So that would include the electric vehicle rebate program, pilot program we're starting, as well as the Energy Star Appliance rebate program, which is one of our most popular programs. So we have started a pilot program for this summer regarding the plug-in electric vehicles. We're calling it the Electrify Your Ride. Basically, I'm gonna go over some basics about electric vehicles, why this is going to be good for RMLD, including basically that savings are in the thousands of dollars over the lifetime of the vehicle between the cost of gasoline and the price of electricity. They reduces the creation of greenhouse gases in the transportation sector, which is one of the areas that, as Massachusetts, is trying to focus on. And in New England itself, electricity production uses natural gas and other renewables, which is a cleaner source of fuel than using traditional oil. So looking at the actual math of it, that basically it prices out using RMLD's average residential rate of 16 cents. It averaged out that an electric gallon, also known as an e-gallon, is about $1.17, which equivalent, the average gas price when I was looking at this was $2.95. So looking at it in a sense of what would, if a customer pays it, how much they're paying for per gallon. If they're on the time of use rates, paying around 13 cents per kilowatt hour, average is 95 cents per gallon. The residential rate, like I said, is $1.17. Comparatively speaking, in an investor-owned utility such as National Grid, which is around 23 cents per kilowatt hour, the price per gallon is $1.68, which is still lower than the cost of a regular priced gallon. To get that price point at which it's equal to a gallon of gasoline, you'd have to pay 40 cents per kilowatt hour. So even then, which we're nowhere near that as of currently.
So it's a tremendous advantage to driving one of these, then, obviously. From a
Cost effectively, yes.
Yeah.
So looking at it, like I said, looking at it in basically to drive 100 miles to say on a gas using that 295, and the average fuel efficiency of average fuel efficiency of a car is about 25 miles per gallon per mile. It would cost about $11.70, which is about $1,400 annually. That's averaging 12,000, basically average of 12,000 miles driven in a year. Taking 16 cents per kilowatt hour that we pay in Reading, multiplied by the base average charge is 0.329 kilowatt hours to charge per mile, is a cost of $4.64 to drive 100 miles, which is about $550 per, so taking that, it's about $850 saved annually to drive an electric vehicle. So there are three types of electric vehicles that we'll talk about. Plug-in electric hybrids, or PHEV, which is both battery and conventional gas engine. And once that battery is fully depleted, the gas engine kicks in.
Hey, Dave.
Typically, and then it will overall have lower emissions than a conventional gas-only vehicle. These regular ones the battery capacity is less than 10 kilowatt hours, meaning it drives around anywhere from 10 to 30 miles an hour, anywhere from 10 to 30 miles on the electric battery. A plug-in electric hybrid plus, or PHEV plus, is the same exact as a PHEV, but the battery capacity is greater than 10 kilowatt hours, meaning that the vehicles typically drive more like around 50 to 60 miles, probably 40 to 60 miles on the electric battery before the, and then a battery electric vehicle, or BEV, is 100% electric. There's zero tailpipe emissions at all. So it's 100, there's 100%, there's no gasoline, no oil. That would be, those included in that category would be the Tesla or the Chevy Bolt. Like
Yeah, it keeps dropping. Sorry.
so,
Yes.
Are we still talking about the electric cars?
Yes.
Yes.
um,
Let me know when, I have a question about that, let me know when I'm able to ask it.
Okay.
yes, okay. So charging, typically most customers will choose to charge at home using either level 1 or level 2 charging. Level 1 is a standard household 120 volt outlet. Takes on an hour's charge, you'll gain about 2 to 5 miles on your battery. Level 2 is a 240 volt charger, and an hour's charge you'll gain about 10 to 20 miles on your battery. Level 2 style charging is what's known as destination charging. You're going to be spending a lot of time at that location, so typically home or workplace charging stations as well. The third type that you'll see on the highways is the DC fast charge, which is about 480 volts. And that in a 20-minute charge will give you about 60 to 80 miles. So what you'll start seeing is start seeing public charging stations are becoming more popular. Like we have just installed a level 2 here at RMLD a couple months ago, but also seen at hotels, shopping centers, in public parking lots, and parking garages. When you're out on the road as an electric vehicle driver, there's multiple options you can find to locate these charging stations. There's public information ones, which is PlugShare, which is driven by consumers that they put the information up there. They're able to register that information. The Department of Energy has the Alternative Fuels Data Center, which has a map that plots them. And then networked chargers that specifically run and own those charging stations, such as ChargePoint and EVgo, along with others, will have their own apps or means to locate those charging stations on the road. This map is currently showing the area around our Reading territory. These are all public access stations, so the ones that public can access. The number 1 here is our terminal outside this building. The 2 is Cornerstone Mitsubishi up in Wilmington, and then number 3 on the corner 128 and 93 is Osram America. There are also workplace charging stations that have been installed at Analog Devices as well as Teradyne, and one facility was just completed at Columbia Construction. Thank you.
Can I ask you a question on that?
Yes.
I'm sure there are apps. I know, for example, Tesla shows you where the charging stations are on their screen when you're looking to charge. But do they also show when they're busy, like someone's using them? Because there may be 1 or 2.
Yes. Right. So PlugShare does that. I know ChargePoint does that as well.
Because you'd hate to drive there and find out.
Yeah.
There's somebody waiting for 20 minutes. You know?
Yeah. I know ChargePoint. Theirs does. They do that. There are X number of terminals here at this location, and one's being used right now. So there's 5 open.
Okay.
Or something like that. The same I know with PlugShare here, because this also plots out where where they are, if something's under if one is under service as well, or that they also locate that. So there is, it
Great.
does.
Yeah, thank
do
you.
both. To help with the cost and implementation, there have been, there's multiple rebates and incentives currently. The federal tax credit is offering anywhere from $2,500 to $7,500. That depends on the capacity of the battery of the vehicle. The state is offering a rebate through the More EV program, anywhere from $1,000 to $2,500, and that depends on the vehicle type. They've specifically categorized that. And then the Mass Energy Consumer Alliance has a program, Drive Green, which they have worked with dealerships and the manufacturers themselves to secure discounts at certain dealerships, and they check the rebates, they check to make sure that the dealerships are offering the mess. They do that monthly. So some deals with them will last only a couple months, but they try and make sure it's the best for the consumer. And then we have just, which I will go into a little more detail in a bit, have just implemented our pilot incentive program of offering $1,000 for plug-in hybrid vehicles plus, so the greater than 10 kilowatt hour batteries, and then $1,500 for a battery electric vehicle. So why we're doing this and why we've previously incentivized electric vehicle chargers is an average level 2 charger will use between 200 to 300 kilowatt hours per month, which becomes out based on various rates in the territory that we offer, will come out between about $300 to $600 additional revenue for us. That's per charging station. This does also contribute to RMLD's Be Efficient, Get Greener, Go Paperless campaign, and that this does shifts our territory into adopting technology that it's more greener. It reduces our emissions for this area. And the updated EV charger rebate, it encourages customers to install networked chargers that will potentially lead us to possibly easier to implement a residential demand response program using those EVs, so that we're not we can encourage those customers to charge off-peak, so that while we're encouraging them to charge and use our product, that we're not incurring additional costs for peak demand. So as of June 1st, we implemented a new pilot program for offering for the purchase and lease of plug-in hybrid vehicle pluses, so the ones that have a battery larger than 10 kilowatt hours. We're offering $1,000 for a new vehicle, and if a customer purchases or leases a new or used battery electric vehicle, we're offering $1,500 for that. We also updated our residential EV charging station rebate. We also updated our residential EV charging station rebate to cover 100% of costs up to $500 for the installation of a level 2 networked charger or smart charger. So we're trying to encourage customers to adopt that technology.
My call keeps cutting in and out. Just let me know when I can.
Why don't you ask it now, Dave?
Yeah, why not ask it now?
Before we lose you again.
Yeah. All right, go, Dave. We're ready for your question.
Dave?
Cut out
Can
again.
you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
we're ready for your question now.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Well, it's all great to have the encouragement on the electric cars. As an owner of one, I have a couple of thoughts. One is that this is a great area that we could collaborate with the town a little bit on, because what we really like to see is a lot of, maybe something in the zoning code that means many more charging stations crop up, or if that's appropriate, or whatever can be done from the planning side, that when site plans are being approved, for parking lots and new buildings like are going up into downtown, that these facilities are put in there. Because you'll notice there's nothing, for example, behind 52 Haven or behind happen on its own, but if it's built into the planning process, maybe they can start sprouting up, and there could be ones like we have in our lot, could be showing up everywhere, and then it's just generating revenue for a long time. Because those level 2 ones are actually really, really helpful for anyone who wants to just pop up while they're doing a shopping errand. You can add quite a bit of range if you're just there for 30 minutes to an hour. You know, I don't need to get a full tank, but that it's noticeable, and it's really helpful to have that. So that's just one thought. So I know we have a member of the Board of Selectmen in the room, and I don't know if that's one thing that could be brought back as an area to make sure we're
Can I expand
talking
on that?
across, entities. Because that's really good for the department and good for the town.
Let him give him.
Another is, you mentioned Chademo. I'm not so sure how important those are going to be going forward in terms of all the new models coming in. We're reading different things about them. They also cost a fortune. You know how much they cost? They're like, it's got to be 50 or 100 grand for one of those things, right?
Well, I didn't hear what you said.
The Chademo, the really big ones that charge your whole car from 0 to 100 in 20 minutes or 40 minutes. Those things are,
Those DC
they're
fast,
huge, machines that cost a lot. I was wondering, that came up a few minutes ago. I didn't hear the whole conversation, but if that's what we think we need to be putting in, I'm not so sure that would be what that we would need to put them in, that we could justify that. But I didn't hear the first part of the conversation as to whether we think we're going to be putting those in.
No, I was just, it was just a point of information that I was bringing up, that it was an option out there, that it was not one that we were specifically looking at.
I didn't know if there was something we were trying to specifically promote. But I do think, it'd be good to promote more of the level 2s in more locations, and not just RMLD trying to make them happen, but that it's built into the development and review process in the 4 towns, so that these things start going up. I don't know what the zoning codes say in all the 4 towns, or what the planning reviews are, but it would be good to somehow make, speak across, boards and departments to make sure everybody understands how important they are. Because I think we all know that electric cars are going to ramp up significantly in the coming years. It's already happening. That's all.
Okay.
Okay.
One
Good.
other question is, how many other light departments are actually giving people tax rebates for buying electric cars? Are anybody doing that? Is Braintree doing that? They would be the ones that do it, right?
No, currently we're the only municipal in Massachusetts offering a rebate directly for cars, for the purchase or lease of a car. They are offering, as well, a couple of the other municipals as well, but they're offering OEM discounts, is what's currently being advertised on their websites.
Okay.
Dave,
It's a very generous thing we've started to do.
Hey, Dave?
Yes.
Yeah, you had asked me in an email just before the meeting, so what I had sent you was, we're mandated at 0.25% for our energy conservation fund. We have to, okay. And that's the fund that's mandated by the state that we pay out for rebates, and we do a lot of analysis to make sure that even our appliance rebates are updated every year, so that they're encouraging the most conservation. This particular fund is also what's funding this. We're having less people coming in on the solar rebate, so we wanted to which is a loss. I mean, it cleans the planet, but from an RMLD revenue perspective, it's a loss.
Yep.
But, so this is using the same money, it's not an additional fund or anything, to pilot this for the summer to see if we can't generate some revenue.
And the revenue is electricity.
And
From people, meaning when you say generate revenue, you mean from people charging the cars that they've purchased.
Yeah, just to offset some of the kilowatt hour sales drop, but, so you asked what was left, and the account, the 1% is
$235,000.
left.
No, that's the total for the
Okay.
residential. We've spent to date about $45,000 on home energy audits, $75,000 on residential audits, $20,000 on residential solar rebates, 10 on the EV chargers, and $4,500 on geothermal. So we have about $81,000 left.
The budget for this is $40,000 for the actual electric vehicle rebates, and then some marketing and administrative budgets.
Do you get that,
Very
Dave?
generous, and it's very proactive to be really looking at the future here and planning for it. And, like I said, I think across departments and town entities, it would be good to be thinking like this. And also not to jump ahead, but it's just something that it's been on my mind and on all of our minds, that, you know, we had this conversation over the last year about, you know, how does the town and the RMLD collaborate? And the one topic of that conversation has been, well, how much more money can RMLD give the town? And I've always thought, and I know there's a fair amount of agreement that that was not a very productive conversation because it's just money coming out of another pocket. But that this kind of thing and other kinds of ideas like this, you know, can be really mutually productive for the town and RMLD, and it would be great to, you know, just kind of think like this, and what are the things we can do across the departments that have benefits for both sides, when we think creatively about, you know, future technologies and, you know, just the areas of efficiency. So I've probably said things like this before, but it would be great to, like, try to get this type of thing on our radar screen.
Good point, Dave. Phil, you have a comment too?
Yeah, I want to expand on one thing that Dave said. I'm in the process of buying a new car right now. And I live at 5 Washington Street, which is a condo building. I actually look down into the parking lots of the train station. You know, and there is really, one of my concerns with buying a hybrid or any other kind of car is, you know, there's not really a very convenient, you know, charging station for me to go to at this point. So I think Davis hit upon something I was going to maybe bring up later on, is the fact that, you know, the town has property around the railroad station. It would seem a logical place for a charging station to be somewhere in that railroad station area. And the town has that, and I'd like that message to be carried back. I'd like my liaison, I'm glad you're here. I'd like you to carry that message back, that, you know, I know parking sometimes down at the depot is rather interesting. But I mean, maybe you look at the end, you know, I live on the 5 Washington, which is as you go up Woburn Street on the first row on the right. That is a dead end, and there's nobody who parks, there's nobody parked in it. Maybe the guy who lives next door would be upset about that, but, you know, that's a dead end. That'd be, in my place, it'd be an ideal spot for a charging station, because people can walk right over to the train station.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Phil. And I think
Yeah.
for us to start carrying that out is if it's built into the various review processes that are already going on in the town, like CPDC and whatnot, so that if there's any review, any tweaks to the zoning bylaws, that, you know, this topic gets on the right people's agendas, so that they're like, oh, okay, then you're rebuilding the Sunoco station, you need to put in that's just part of the requirements, you know, that should be going forward. And then, so it's not just us, like, having to spend 20, 30, whatever grand and get it done from scratch, but that it's built into the existing processes.
Yeah, so, no, just to add on.
That's all. I don't know if it is now, I doubt it is, but it could be.
Yeah. Yeah, Tom.
Yeah, so I guess in even a larger context, so Phil's given and Dave a good example of an application or a location, but I'm wondering if we couldn't do a broader scoping of, you know, starting with the whole universe of the 4 towns, where would be some locations that make sense, and then maybe target them not overnight, but over time, so we don't we do it not just opportunistically, but with a strategy in mind, because at some point, you know, others will, you know, if we get there first, you know, with the plan and have them, we're less likely to be, even though wherever they are, benefit us, but I mean, we could take a more strategic approach.
Yeah.
We're developing a program so that, you know, Jane's group, they'll be approaching Home Depot and other areas that have been strategically selected to support.
Because I know there's a company out of Miami, a company named Blink, B-L-I-N-K. They've actually signed a contract with Amazon to put charging stations outside, I think it's Whole Food that Amazon owns.
Yep.
They're actually signed a contract to put some charging stations outside of Whole Food locations.
Wow.
It's a publicly traded company, Blink.
So they would be
Yeah,
in your plan, there would be RMLD-owned charging stations?
Well, RMLD is a franchise, so no one can sell, only we can sell power. Unless it's coming off of their meter and they're selling, they're giving it free to their employees, it has to come through us.
Okay, so anybody that's paying for electricity to charge a car has
Right,
to be an RMLD?
Right, because this is a franchise, that's correct.
But one way around that, Chloe, you're correct, but some of these stations, they charge by the hour. So you're paying whoever the property is by the hour, and you're not paying technically for electricity. So that's a way to get around it, but you're still getting your electricity sales, right, if you want. But we don't have to worry about them reselling electricity because they're not doing that. They're just selling an hour at their charger.
So you're saying that the charger is coming off of their meter, and they're making the money by charging a parking rent?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, maybe the analogy is, if I went to go get my, it's a ridiculous analogy, but let's say I went to get my hair done, and I have my head under the hair dryer. I'm not paying them for the electricity for the hair dryer. I'm paying them for their services or their time. Like I said, it's a terrible analogy.
I think another good analogy.
When we go and get services or whatever done, and it uses electricity, but we're paying for the time, somebody's time, or a rent. But anyway, that's how it's done in many places, because I charge my car in many places. And, it's the entity that's charging me by the hour for the privilege of parking there, and by the way, plugging in. Which they're paying for my electricity, and I'm paying them for the privilege of parking.
Okay, yeah, we'll look into that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have another example,
Well,
Jane?
yeah, it's kind of, when you rent a campsite and you have electrical hookups or water hookups when you're camping, you're not paying for the electricity or the water, you're paying to rent the campsite.
Right.
So that-
Right. That's
that
another
might
good
be
example,
another
yeah.
analogy As opposed to Dave's care.
Yeah.
Right, all right.
Nothing wrong with Dave's here.
No.
Well,
Dave, I think Vanessa had a.
Yes, Vanessa, you had a comment.
Dave, I think this is a fantastic idea, and actually it's very timely,
yeah, well,
so.
Dave Calvin?
Dave's talking, Vanessa.
Yeah.
Dave, Vanessa wanted to make a comment, Dave.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
So, Dave, I think this is a great idea, and your timing is great. The select board has had very preliminary conversations regarding the master plan, and I know the CPDC is updating their guidelines.
great.
Getting a group together, I think, to start pushing this forward now would be perfect.
Great.
Okay.
Good.
So what's the recommendation?
By the way, for being there, it's nice to have members of the board of selectmen attending our meeting, so thanks.
Select board now, Dave. Select board, they call
Yeah.
themselves.
Yes.
The select board.
Right, yeah.
Sorry.
So is there something that we should do next on this issue? You said getting a group
Well,
together?
I think
or-
if Vanessa wants some language from us, if we have any specs or any guidelines, probably, summarizing the franchise and just to make sure that whatever information gets put in, that it follows, not opening, we don't want to open up our territory by mistake, retail territory, the home rule. So we'll just provide you some information for that. You can pass that along unless you want to give us a phone number for us to call them directly, whatever you want, whatever would be helpful.
I think having some prepared language would be great, and as part of my liaison report at our next meeting, I think on July 10th, I can report in.
Okay, all right, we can,
what I'd like to do.
sure. Yeah,
great.
you put some information together for Vanessa, okay, great.
All right, and I think we cut you off. You're still, Ben, you still have some things to do. That was just a little break in the action.
So actually,
Wait, what is the name of the body formerly changed to select board? Where was I? Did that happen?
Yeah, it did.
That last town
I
meting.
think it was the first.
Last
Oh,
town
last town meeting,
Last
okay.
town meeting.
Yep.
Well, I apologize, but I normally would have said that, and I actually was deliberately saying what I thought it was, but I totally missed that. I think I missed that. Anyway, apologize.
No worries.
Yeah.
So actually, I can report that as of yesterday, I should back up a step. Our goal is to get 30 vehicles for the 5 months, which is 6 vehicles per month. And I can report that as of yesterday, we actually hit 6 applications and they were all
Hey,
approved.
that's great. Congratulations.
Nice.
We have hit our goal, so we're not stopping. we're gonna continue on. So actually, as part of that,
You might have another sale right here, Phil. Sounds like number 7's coming.
We'll see, we'll see.
so actually, as part of that is we're doing a marketing and education plan. So we are putting a little effort into an educational article series titled Electrify Your Ride. That's going to be published in all of the newspapers, online on the patch, as well as our website. We're also going to tweet it out with the link to our articles on the website. The first article went out last week, which was titled "Why the Buzz About Plug-in EVs," kind of just spurring the general introduction as to why we're going to get into this, what we're doing. And then the second article is going to go out tomorrow, is Plug-in Electric Vehicle 101, so the basics about it. Further topics are going to include talking about rebates, incentives, how, actually the next one after this is going to be how and where to charge your plug-in, the electric vehicle. So we're kind of looking at the broader scopes to make sure that the public is educated about them. So it's not to also to push them past the pilot to consider the electric vehicles as well. If we decide to continue offering the rebate or whatever progress that is. We're also going to be putting information on the billing envelopes. We'll also be sending out emails that those educational articles will be going out to those who would like them. And we're also going to be at the Wilmington Farmers Market on Sunday, July 15th. We're going to be doing a ride and drive event in which that will have 2 parts. One will be a showcase of vehicles. Typically, we're going to try and get Reading territory customers to bring their vehicles to talk about their experiences. We're also going to have dealers there who will either showcase vehicles or take customers out on test drives.
We lost them again.
So we're hopefully going to get a little bit of interest, be there and continue with the education piece, and be there for that.
That's a great logo, by the way. I mean, that little car with the plugged in, that's Joyce, that is.
Very nice.
I mean, it says it all right there. I mean, that's excellent.
Have you seen the Bolt? Our fleet vehicle, the white one with the logo on it?
I don't know, if I see another picture of it, I probably recognize it. Yeah. I really like that, though. It's very descriptive.
Thanks, Ben.
Yeah, nice-
Thank you.
nice job,
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Very good.
Joyce Mulvaney, Communications Manager. I'm just gonna give you a little demo on our new website. Hopefully you got a chance to take a look at it. It was launched on June 1st. So as far as the features, we wanted something that was, had a new look and feel, was much more business-like and professional. We went through all the content and kind of cleaned it up and reorganized it. And then the biggest thing about this website is that it's mobile friendly. So if you use it on your phone,
You need
it's
to
a
get in
much
front of the
better
microphone.
experience than our previous website. It's basically a responsive design, so that means that it adjusts to any screen size, and it should look good from any screen size. So I'm just going to show you a couple.
Joyce, I don't know if you're probably not being heard for the people that are listening to you. Can we get the mic close to you if you want to sit there? I don't want to make you move all around, but
Thought I might be able to get away with it.
thank you, Phil.
No luck.
We just want everybody to hear you, Joyce.
Okay. So, good? Okay. All right, so I'm just gonna show you a few of the key areas. So along the top, we have report and outage. When we get our outage map up and running, that will be up at the top as well. We have contact us and the search bar, which is a really nice tool to have. This is the main menu bar. We used what's called a mega menu, so that's why it's so wide. So it only has a few options when you just look at the bar, but when you expand, there's a couple of categories under each. So there's about RMLD. This has all the About Us, community, other resources. You'll see over here the Board of Commissioners information can be found right here, so we'll just click on that so you can see it.
Our favorite subject.
Absolutely, yeah.
For my residents is all the topics for our residential customers, so billing and payments, service, save energy and money.
Hey, sorry about this.
It's okay.
For my business, mirrors for my residents, but each menu is targeted towards that specific group of customers. So hopefully they find everything they want right there. I'm gonna go back to our homepage. We have our Twitter feed here, so anything we put on Twitter will show up right here. Underneath that, we have the quick links, which essentially we looked at our analytics from our old website and we selected the most visited items, with the exception of a few. We tried to put all the things that people would typically look for most in the quick links. So that's what all these items are. So of course, pay my bill, report an outage is here again in case it's missed at the top. Things like rates, contact us, start stop service, all those key items are here. So in theory, customers will easily find what they're looking for right away. And then underneath that, there's the news and announcements section, which is where we can kind of highlight current events and campaigns we're trying to promote and whatnot. So we have a couple things about our electric vehicle programs right now, Shred the Peak, Solar Choice, and we can change this as we go to whatever we'd like to highlight at the time. So, and that's basically it. We didn't want to make it too long. We didn't want people to have to scroll down. We figured they would lose interest after a certain amount of time anyway. So that's the homepage. Any questions about it or anything else you'd like to see?
So it's functioning now, right?
Yep.
I just went on my mobile and I don't get that, but I get a place to click on for the website, but I don't get that, so.
You don't get it?
Yes.
No?
So there's a calendar, so when you go into Board of Commissioners, you have your calendar, but then when you go to the main calendar, everything's listed, so the cab and everything, so if you can
Correct.
show them
So-
how you got to the main calendar.
Sure. So you can get there a couple ways. Under About RMLD, the events calendar is here, and it's also one of the quick links. So basically, when Tracy posts a meeting onto your calendar, it automatically goes onto the events calendar here.
Yep.
So you can find it on both of those.
Yeah, it's on the, it's, well, about, you just don't get the graphic, the
right.
picture, but
Yeah,
you get
the
all the
picture-
content
Yeah.
goes
Right.
this way instead of this way, right?
Correct. Yeah, the picture's too big to work with the phone,
Right.
but everything else
Yeah.
looks nice.
No, it's good.
It's great.
Great.
Very good.
Otherwise, as far as community relations, mainly we're working on, I'm working on promoting.
Hey, everybody, excuse me, would it be okay if I dropped out, or is there another item coming up?
Nope. No, I think it's okay.
Doing
We're having,
financials and, that's it,
No bids.
in bids.
No bids.
Oh, no bids.
Just, to hop off and,
Bye, Dave.
okay, all right, guys.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye, Dave.
Bye.
Thanks for checking in.
Everybody, thank you.
Joyce, is there, I just went through it quickly, is there gonna be a separate place for the electric vehicles? Seems like there is for solar, but not, maybe it's because it's so new, but.
Yeah, there's, right now, we just have the information here in our news and announcements.
Yeah.
It's certainly something that we could add elsewhere as well, maybe under one of the main menu items here. So we have a lot of flexibility with what we
Yeah.
can do with it.
Yeah, I'm
you
just
know.
thinking, it
Yeah.
seems obviously a lot of buzz and interest on it, so it doesn't
Mhm.
have to be, still a work in progress, but it might be
Yeah,
a nice way to.
okay. Yeah, I'll just show you what we have for content on we built a whole section on the electric vehicles, so you'll see there's several pages over here.
Yeah.
The landing page is the rebate programs, but there's an electric vehicle 101, which goes over a lot of the content that Ben talked about.
Yeah.
The article series is here. Again, why drive electric? And this is one of the articles that we recently posted. So we've kind of been building up the content, so maybe we'll feature it a little bit more prominently too.
That's fine. No, it's nice to have.
Yeah, great work.
mobile
Great work,
video
yeah.
Right.
site.
Good.
Thanks, Joyce. Okay, and it looks like Wendy, financials.
Oh, good evening.
Wendy?
Oh,
Okay, so tonight we're reporting on 10 months of the fiscal year 18 ending April 30th. So the first slide, this is showing the relation of our cash to our monthly operating expenses. And so we recently had some FERC training. Someone came in from FERC and did a training for a bunch of the staff. And one of the particular statements he made was that the industry standard is to have 3 to 4 months of operating cash available. So unrestricted funds available and readily accessible. That is what he said was industry standard. So I know that we have taken the approach that we're targeting about 2 months, and with the understanding that we have some reserve available if we need to dip into it. So I just wanted to show you here what it looks like for the past 10 months, and I'm going to say we're averaging about 2 to 2.25 times per the monthly expenses for cash. Okay? So then we haven't talked about plant a lot, so I decided why not tonight? So I just wanted to show you a little pie chart of what is made up of the plant. So our total net capital assets as of April is $77.5 million. And of the $77.5 million, you can see that $52.5 million is the bulk of it, which is our basically our electric infrastructure. So that's your poles, anything overhead, anything underground, your transformers, your meters, your street lights. So that makes up the bulk of our net plant. And then you have your structures and improvements at $10.8 million. And your structures and improvements are basically your distributed generator, your substation, and your building upgrades. Then you have your equipment and furnishings of $12.9 million. And that is made up mainly of your hardware, your computer hardware infrastructure and your software, your office furniture, your fleet of vehicles, some tools, your GIS and SCADA, and fiber. And then, of course, you have your land that the building sits on and your substations sit on at about $1.3 million. So to go further and expand on that, I did a comparison for you to look at the last 5 years of where plant was and where it's going, since we're continuing to tell you that we're upgrading our system. I just want to show you where the money's going. So currently, land has been stable. As you know, we're looking to build a new substation. And then you have your structures and improvements. So it started in 2014 at $6.4 million, and a lot of improvements have gone into the substations themselves, and it's gone up to $10.8 million. Okay, and then you look at your equipment and furnishings, and you look at that and you say, wow, looks like it did a little bit of a dip. So $13 million it started at, and it's come down to about 12.9. So it's pretty much gone a little bit down or stayed flat. And the reason for that is because we haven't put a lot of money into office equipment or furnishings. Even our fleet has not been upgraded very quickly, and basically it's been depreciating as quickly as it's being upgraded. Okay? And then you look at your infrastructure, excuse me, as I mentioned, your entire, overhead underground electrical infrastructure started at $49.5 million, and it has increased to $52.5 million. So you can see where all the capital funds are going in the different areas.
and these are not inflation adjusted. They'd be even more dramatic
Oh.
if they were inflation adjusted.
I actually don't understand what that means.
It means if you take the, any one of these numbers in the past.
Yes.
And as you're moving into the future, you increase it by whatever the inflation rate is, because $1 today is not the same as $1 5 years ago.
But isn't this the current
This is
value?
right, so this is the cost of
When
cost
you're-
of the plant, and as it's being depreciated.
Oh, I understand.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, whenever you're showing charts over time like this, many people will inflation adjust them. Inflation's been so low that it almost makes no difference.
Oh, okay,
right?
okay.
But the point is, it would be even more dramatic.
I understand
if
what
it
you're
were
saying.
Oh, I see what you're
inflation
saying.
adjusted.
Okay.
So, because,
Right.
again, $1 today, if I gave you $1.05, it's not equivalent. If I give you $1 today or $1 5 years into the future, which is worth more? The $1 today, obviously.
Right, right.
Because I could invest it, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, I understand, Phil. Okay, so then, and the last slide, it just shows our year-to-date operating and maintenance expenses. So, looks like in April, we are straight on with the budget. Pretty much, we've spent exactly what the budget says. We should have about 16.7% left in the budget, and that is what we have overall, the total costs. And like I mentioned, we're probably gonna go over budget, so we do still have some of those costs that, some of the bills from the storms, timing, you know, not getting anything in timely and whatnot. So you may still see, I did a preliminary for May, I think I showed you, Hamid, and it looks like we did end up going over in May. I didn't have the finals, so, but it's not looking as drastic as I anticipated, so I'm hopeful that it won't.
Great.
Great.
Yeah,
Okay?
great,
So that concludes my presentation. Any questions?
very good.
Questions?
Just one quick question on the operating cash relative to the operating expenses.
Yes.
And I see where, I'm just sort of curious how, Farouk, I know you're saying recommends 3 or more
Yes.
times, and that's that's a good conservative
Right.
approach, right? If you looked at other munis, would they be more like us, or would that include, I mean, what do the ISOs look like, for example? I mean, are they similar to that? Do they retain 3 or 4 times? I mean, I don't
I actually
have
don't
any
have that
idea.
information, but do you have anything about the ISO?
look
No,
into
we
that.
can definitely look into
Yeah,
it.
I don't want it to be a big deal. I'm just very curious about where we lie on the bell
Right.
curve.
Probably less relevant is the IOU, more the munis, right?
Yeah, more munis
Yeah.
certainly to compare to, absolutely.
Okay, well, we'll look into that, definitely.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think it's more than just curiosity too, because, you know, as we've said, the future is somewhat uncertain, right? And we've always historically
Right,
felt
right.
very comfortable with a couple of months of cash, so I don't know if they provided any more insight, so other than it's nice to have more than less, did FERC give any rationale as to the advantage, and there's some obvious advantages, right? You can
Right.
weather
But
more
why
storm.
3 months? Why instead
Yeah, I
of 2?
mean,
Yeah.
is there something that's
Yeah.
changing in the business economy or climate that's?
Yeah, that's a
Can I
good
make a
question.
comment?
Yes.
We can get some more information on that. Typically, it stems from not only, it can look at loss of customers, it can look at major catastrophes of equipment. We've talked in the past about the loss of a substation, and
Yeah.
mobile units could cost up to about 20 grand a week.
Yeah.
For over a year. I mean, there are emergency contingencies, and so each utility does it a little bit differently. Generally, it's between, 2 and 3 months' worth of operating cash, but only based on if they say, okay, it's approximately $10 million as a contingency fund to lose a main substation. You know what I mean? So they may earmark it differently, but Wendy and I will work on getting some data out. We can send out a survey to the general managers of the other utilities.
Yeah, I think it's timely, and it's sort of.
I agree,
A lot
yeah.
of it sort of mirrors the discussion we had a couple of months
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, sure does.
We
Yep.
answered some of the reasons ourselves, but.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay,
Good. Thanks, Wendy.
thank you.
Hamid.
Saving best for the last.
Oh, wow.
Now, you're not looking for any money, are
You
you?
took the words right out of our mouth.
That's right. Your colleagues are sitting right there.
You're not looking for any money, are you?
Well, I'm gonna give you guys a break. We don't have any bids for the
All
first
right.
time.
Oh, okay.
Not spending any money, huh?
Don't stop spending
Yeah.
money.
All right. So I'm here to present you the engineering operations budget, actually expenditures for the month of April. So on the first slide, second, and third. This is as fast as I can go. So
Neil, there's another job for you.
So you'll see the expenditures, actually the actual year-to-date spendings for the entire department, engineering operations, facilities, IRDs, and IT, the capital improvement projects. That brings up the year-date to total to $5,007,896, and we budgeted $7,685,521. So we are spending the remaining basically in the month of May and June. So we are on target. We'll be spending that money. So the next slide is.
Yep.
You want to make a comment on all the projects that they were gracious enough to approve or been completed, correct?
Yes. Well, I was going to save that for last.
You just stole his thunder.
Yeah, you.
4th of July coming. You wanted to.
Yeah, that's right. That's my birthday.
Right, grand
Yeah,
finale.
yeah, 4th of July. I'm a 4th of July boy.
So you gave me $20, I got 18 left, but I'm spending the other 2. So I want to know what I'm getting for my money.
Yeah. I want to know what I'm going to get for my birthday coming up. Oh my God. All right. The routine maintenance, basically the transformer replacement program, the pole inspections, quarterly inspection of the feeders, manhole inspections, and porcelain cutout replacements, they're all on target, schedule, moving along. We inspected 10 feeders for this quarter, and we haven't found any problems. Under the routine maintenance, continued, the tree trimming is going very well, and probably we are getting to almost the end of the budget, so we're monitoring that very closely, making sure that it's not going over the budget. But so far, year to date, up to end of the April, we have cut almost 843 spans of the trees. The substation maintenance, we have infrared scanned all the substations and as well as the parks. We haven't found any problems yet, so it's going good. That it pays for itself. The underground subdivision upgrades, 3 underground subdivisions, they were completed up to the end of the April. And there are 8 more that you see there in progress in various locations in our town. These are the subdivisions that they've got antiquated equipment, the transformers, the cables. We have to basically redo everything from A to Z, from riser pole out on the street all the way to the end of development. We have to take everything apart, because as soon as you touch one, the next one is the next one to go. So we just rather than going back and forth, we just take them all and take care of them in one shot. So that's a routine constraint. The next slide is very familiar. I know that everybody is, but probably they know it by heart. The ownership of the poles are 50-50 between RMLD and Verizon. The custodial in Reading, we split with Verizon. North Reading is RMLD. The other 2 communities, Linfield and Wilmington, is with Verizon.
This is your favorite slide.
That's my favorite slide. Yeah, that shows how much work I'm doing.
Right.
So the Linfield, we got 20 transfers and 1 pole bot that we got to remove. In North Reading, we got 10 transfers and 49 poles. Reading, we got 27 transfers, 51 pole. And Wilmington, we got 35 transfers and 4 poles. So we got lots of projects, especially in the month of May and June. You're going to see these numbers going really high because we have completed substantial overhead and underground upgrades, and the infrastructures that you see, those bars, they keep going up for maintenance and for the plant increase. The next slide showing you the RMLD reliability indices. Basically, across all categories, we're doing very well, well below the national and the regional averages for SAIDI, KD, and SAFE. So we're doing well. The next slide is showing you the cause of the outages. As you could see, compared to the 5 years averages, we are doing very well. We are basically
That's
going
very
in the
dramatic.
right direction.
That's very, very dramatic.
Right, which is good. And the last, I just wanted to, I would let you know that all the projects basically for FY18, they're done, completed, and we are now making transitions to FY19. Actually,
already
we are
completed
ahead. We
all of
already started, all of them. With the exception of one, the parking lot rearrangements, which, you know, that one,
This one.
yeah, this one, right over here, 230 Ashley Street, they're all done.
That's great.
All done on budget.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good work, great
Ahead of
work.
schedule.
So
Wow.
we are now getting, I've started the FY19, the constructions ahead of schedule, so hopefully we can get them done
It's great
in
news.
time. Thank you.
All right, Hamid.
That concludes my quick report. No bids, so
Good.
any questions?
I just, I don't know if there's a plan, so you remember the last meeting, we took a tour of the, whatever that's called. the
Control
operation-
center.
Control center.
Yeah.
I don't know if the plan is to have others who would benefit from that. That's a terrific visual of what you're doing.
Vanessa, have you ever taken a tour of the control room here?
Oh, we just built
I'm not suggesting tonight, but, you know, if
No,
you,
but that's sort of what I had, you know, I
Sure.
think some people, because that shows you what's behind all these
Right.
expenses and, you know,
it's very impressive. I mean, it just, it's really state of the art.
Actually, we're installing 2 more modules that they coming up, more technology, which is, one is customer portal, which basically all the customers, they could go on the web and they can look at the outage area when there is an outage or when there's a problem. They could see whether they are included or they're not, or so that's a good map to refer to during the outages. And the second one is the dashboard. The dashboard is for administrative purposes. So all the managers, all the employees, they could see, you know, you could see Sadie, KD, and Safi basically up to date. Because everything now automatically is being fed into that system. So right now we're calculating some of these and, you know, some processes are being done manually. Now, as more automation is being added, so the AMI meters, they report to OMS. OMS is reporting to the dashboard module, and automatically all of these indices are calculated. So no hands basically involved. Everything automatically is done.
so maybe the takeaway is for Vanessa specifically,
Right.
but also Neil. I know George was at our last meeting. He had the benefit of seeing it, but maybe the other
Can I
candidates.
add something to that? So there wasn't a GIS here, a Geographic Information System for collecting all of the plant assets. So once we collected all of that, so everything has the latitude and longitude, and then we drew in all the lines representing the wires, so that then Hamid put an engineering modeling system on top of it, so now you can actually see the flow of electricity, so we can do all of our calculations to make sure that all of our substations are properly loaded and at the end of the lines have the proper voltage. We weren't able to do that in the past. We were able to interconnect all of our communications using the existing fiber loop that goes through all the towns, that goes to each of the substation now and comes back to this new control room. So where we used to just answer phones and basically dispatch trucks, Hamid's been working really hard on his technology roadmap of bringing in a smart grid system, which combines smart meters with some smart switches that are out there that will sense outages, open, they'll restore automatically so that the truck rolls are less and we save a lot more money and efficiency that way. We're also trying to go towards eliminating Twitter and having the IVR system and the outage management system detect the outages and send information, text or emails, or on the website you can call up the map to see where the outages are and what the estimated time of restoration. So it's really, I want to say that it's appropriate for this size utility, being one of the largest in the state, and it brings us into the 21st century. Hamid was very careful to make sure that everything that we purchased was properly spec'd and that everything was multi-speak so that it's non-proprietary, so that we can integrate things. So he's did a really fantastic job, and it's come out really, 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 really good. So just a little, so that when you're seeing it, you understand how we pieced it together. We got a little ways to go.
Right.
But it's all coming together.
But I think
Job.
also for the town, it becomes a bullet point for having a state-of-the-art electric infrastructure and system for trying to attract business to town, commercial or otherwise.
Yep, that's the connection,
Right.
yeah.
We'll be able to dispatch our generators from there
Right.
for peaking and be able to monitor the ISO's peaks and our peaks so that, you know, Jane will have access to it. So it'll be functional and be brought to different dashboards in each of the managers' stations so that they can all use the data that's coming in. So it's coming along quite well. He's right on target too with his longer-term roadmap. So good job.
Another applause for him.
Thank you.
Hey.
For the whole team.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
So, are we good?
So our board meetings, we just gonna review this. Yeah, we're good with the
Okay.
lights. Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Neil.
My pleasure.
So we have one Thursday, July 19th. I think we're starting a little bit early that day. No, that's the regular meeting starts at 7:30.
6:30, I
Right.
think.
There's a meeting.
There's a meeting before that, yeah. And then August, we just have NEPA.
Yeah.
And I think everybody's going, right? You're going, John,
Yes.
Phil,
Yep.
I'm
Yep.
going, you're going, Tom?
Yes.
And then
I owe
Jane,
you information.
You want to go? I think it's open to
people
cab
do.
members.
Oh,
you're going, of course, right? To NEPA
Yes,
and Jane.
please, thank you.
All right. And then September 21st, we have as a meeting as well. Cab, you have one coming up, Tom, July 18th?
I do?
That's what it says here.
Oh, okay, then I'll be there.
And then Dave Talbot.
Isn't it Phil's turn? No, I wasn't sure. Okay, I'll take it.
And then Dave Talbot has September 19th. Okay.
Okay.
Well, I think, is there any other
Yeah, I
discussion
just have-
items?
I just have one item.
Okay.
For the next meeting, we ought to have a discussion of the, I know we talked to the town about doing some sort of study. I suggest maybe on the next, I ran into the chair of the select board, and he asked where that was, and I think maybe at the next meeting, we should have an agenda item is to discuss that. As
Sure.
to what the status
Why
of
don't we-
that is.
Why don't we get that on the agenda,
Could, please.
Tracy?
Yep.
And anything else by anybody? Okay. Why don't we make a motion that we
Okay. You
adjourn
ready?
here?
You ready?
Yeah.
We gotta go executive session.
Right.
Move that the board go into executive session to consider the purchase of real estate and to discuss confidential, competitively sensitive, and proprietary information in relation to making, selling, or distributing electric power and energy, and to return to regular session for the sole purpose of adjournment.
Okay, second.
Second.
All right, discussion.
Poll the
All
board.
those in favor?
Poll the board.
Tom O'Rourke, aye?
David Hennessy, aye.
Mr. Pacino, aye?
Mr. Stempak, aye.
And Dave's not here. Motion carries 4-0.
All right.